we'll be getting started with the GOAT, the strongest sorcerer in Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo Satoru. Gojo has two aspects that make him incredibly powerful: the Limitless Technique and the Six Eyes. Contrary to popular belief, the vast majority of Gojo's strength comes not from his Curse Technique, but from the Six Eyes. The Six Eyes are an attribute that gets passed down from generation to generation of the Gojo clan. They give the holder a huge boost to perception, allowing them to perceive everything that has cursed energy with high accuracy, as well as things with zero cursed energy. Gojo is the only person that has ever sensed Toji from behind, and it is because of the Six Eyes. In addition to this, the Six Eyes gives Gojo near perfect optimization of cursed energy, allowing Gojo to use his cursed techniques with next to zero cursed energy expenditure. This allows Gojo to fight as if he has infinite cursed energy, which lets him make the most out of his insane cursed technique, the Limitless Technique. Before I get into the Limitless Technique, I do want to mention that the specifics of this technique are intentionally overcomplicated, so don't feel bad if you only understand the effects of the technique and not its full depth. The Limitless Technique is an incredibly powerful technique that essentially allows the user to manipulate space at an atomic level via cursed energy. This is a huge task on its own, and it is implied that without the Six Eyes, Limitless is almost impossible to use, as the perception and cursed energy required to manipulate space at an atomic level is not attainable without them. But Gojo has the Six Eyes, which gives him access to four of the most broken abilities in Jujutsu Kaisen. First, we have Infinity. This is the neutral state of the Limitless Technique. A basic interpretation of Infinity is that it is the power to stop, but it is a bit more complicated than that. Infinity is the convergence of an unending series. Anything that tries to hit Gojo will never reach him because Infinity divides the finite space between the aggressor and Gojo infinitely. It's similar to how two numbers can be divided over and over again, but no matter how small a fraction gets, it will never divide to zero. This technique is super powerful for Gojo as it basically prevents him from being hit by attacks, and he can keep it up 24/7, providing him unlimited defense around the clock. For the most part, this technique is great, but it's not infallible. There are three main ways to get through Infinity. The first is domain amplification, the second is putting Gojo into a domain expansion, and the third is a curse tool with the technique stoppage effect. The curse tools with this effect are the Spear of Inverted Heaven and the Black Rope. This quality is also possessed by Angel's technique, Jacob's Ladder. The next technique is Blue, which amplifies the Limitless Technique and brings negative concepts into reality. These negative concepts, like -1 apples, are impossible, and create negative distance, which is also impossible. This negative distance forces space to correct around it, creating a magnetic effect. We've seen this technique take two forms. The first is the normal form that we see when it's introduced, and the second is the maximum output version, which we saw him use to destroy the courtyard against Toji. Blue can also be used to compress space between Gojo and his target, increasing his speed and force in the process. This application has made Gojo the fastest sorcerer in his era. Following Blue is the opposite, Red. Red is the curse technique reversal of Blue, and as such, it has the ability to repel. This technique requires an understanding of reverse curse technique, and it is extremely difficult to pull off. It requires double the cursed energy of Blue as well, but it is an extremely destructive force, and it seems to be Gojo's main method of attacking. The final piece of the Limitless Technique is Hollow Purple. This ability combines Red and Blue, creating both motion and reversal. In the process, it creates imaginary mass, which does massive damage to anything it touches and launches out of Gojo's finger in a large beam. There's a common misconception that Hollow Purple erases everything in its path, but that's just not the case, as we have seen people survive it in the manga. In addition to the Limitless Technique, Gojo can also use anti-domain techniques like Simple Domain and Falling Blossom of Emotion. He's also able to use Reverse Curse Technique, and he's capable of landing Black Flashes. And in addition to all that, he is of course capable of using his domain expansion, Infinite Void, which is a barriered lethal domain that has the unique attribute of immobilizing the opponent by forcing infinite amounts of information into their brain. This effect also causes brain damage after the domain closes, and it can affect sorcerers and non-sorcerers for up to months after exposure. In the manga, we also learn that Gojo has the ability to restore Curse Technique burnout by healing his brain with Reverse Curse Technique, but this technique is very dangerous, and has rendered Gojo unable to cast his domain due to brain damage. Also in the manga, we learn that he is capable of casting his domain in 0.2 seconds, and that he's capable of casting his domain slightly faster than Sukuna. We also recently saw some new applications of the Limitless Technique, as we saw him use Infinity to launch a building at Sukuna, curve Red around a building, and use Blue at the last second before landing a punch in order to make the punch even stronger. Gojo is such a cool character, and while I'm sure I could make a whole video just talking about him and his abilities, we have to move on for now. So we're going to move on to Gojo's best friend,